Can you remember what this house looked like a few months ago? It was in a bit of a sorry state. Well, what can I say? The renderers have been quite a difference. Remember, we're going to go as deep as a screw, not as deep as a plug. So yeah, it's pretty much there. So we'll go kind of that deep. Hiya folks, welcome back to the show and to our self-build extension project. And what you've just seen me doing is just doing a few of the finishing touches on soffits, fascias, painting, bits and pieces like that. I have never been so stressed as doing the cutting in of the painting against the brand new render that's just been done. Let me just give you a quick guided tour of what's been going on, because man, what a difference the rendering makes. As you can see, things have been very, very busy, and Mrs. Mac has made a start on digging over the garden. There are so many tree roots to get out, and these can only really be taken out by hand. As I say, Mrs. Mac has done the bulk of this. Anyway, that's a job for another day. As I say, the rendering is done, and that of course means that we are, touch wood, onto the home straight of this project. We're onto all the last little fiddly bits and pieces. But just let me give you a very quick tour of what's been going on here. So this is spray render. The lads did an amazing job of the rendering. Very, very happy with that. It took them about a day to do all of the prep. So basically they completely mask off everything on the house, and they put a base coat in, they put mesh around stress points, and they primer the walls, and they do all sorts of stuff like that. So it took about a day all in to do the prep, and then they come back and do the top coat. And I honestly thought that it would have taken them about like a week or something to do the rendering. They had this all done in a single day, sprayed on and then scraped back. I mean, it was a long day for them. They were here 7 o'clock in the morning, and they didn't leave until probably about 6:30 at night or something like that. So it was a long shift, but they got the whole lot done in a day. And man, we are just so pleased with the work that they've done here. It's probably, we've had a lot of amazing trades working on this project, but this really takes a biscuit for what a great job that they've done. Very, very happy. I don't know if you can see, but essentially what happens is they spray it all on with this great big spraying machine. It looks horrific once it's sprayed on, but then they let it set a little bit and they flatten it out, and then sometimes they have to do like a little bit of building up of the layers to get everything flat and whatnot, and then they scrape it back to get this kind of finish on it, and you end up with this like snowstorm of render dust everywhere, which actually we're keeping as kind of a hardcore backfill. So this is it here, and if you can imagine, this was just absolutely everywhere. So this is the leftover scraped back render, but this will make great hardcore backfill for kind of various places around the house where it's going to save us actually having to buy hardcore, and there's no point. We've got all this that we can use. They managed to get down the side here, no problem. Look at this. So impressed. I wasn't sure if the paper, it's only like a ½ meter gap down the side, but they got in there, no problem. All neatly around the windows and everything, and the front looks amazing as well. We've got all of our first fix electrics in for outside lights, and really, as I say, we're now up to the finishing touches of this project. The painting of the soffits and fascias was incredibly stressful, and I did actually, when I was up there, I managed to drop a tin of paint and it kind of dropped in slow motion and fell in a heap at the bottom there. I just had visions of it all going down the side of the wall on our brand new render, and amazingly, I mean, it went everywhere, but not a drop on the render. We were so lucky. The whole back door was covered in it and everything, but it's just one of those things. I had it hooked on a proper ladder hook on the ladder, and it fell off basically. So now that the soffits and fascias are all painted, they've only got one coat on. I will be doing a second coat, but it means that we can get the final guttering up around the back here. So that's kind of my next job. So if you remember, we did have the gutter flow going in that direction down to a temporary downpipe down there, which just led off into the garden. Well, we're now at the point where we can do the permanent guttering, which means that the flow is going to go left to right, and we'll have a downpipe over here, which will go down to a gully down the bottom there. We didn't want to do that too early on in the project, otherwise people would be tripping over the temporary downpipe, so we wanted to put the temporary downpipe over the left hand side to keep it out of people's road. But now that we're at the stage where all the trades, all the big trades are pretty much done, we've got the plasterer in next week plastering the kitchen, but after that it's just finishing touches really. So there's a couple of considerations for the downpipe here, because obviously this needs to kind of go like that over here, and it needs to avoid the outside light that's going to be on the wall here, so we want it kind of as far over this way as possible, but at the same time we don't want it too close to this edge because we don't want to like blow out the edge with the brackets, so we'll probably go kind of there-ish. We'll work that out accurately in a minute. But the other consideration obviously is that there's the electric cable for the studio room runs under the ground here, and we'll want to make sure that the gully isn't going to hit where the electric cable is. So here's from before when it was built, and here's the electric cable running right at kind of foundation level, and I marked up the ground with some red spray paint at the time. And then we can see that once the walls were built, that you can just about see the red spray paint on the ground there, which is half a brick, one, so it's kind of here basically. So just underneath the right hand side of that air brick there, which is exactly where we've got it. So we should be pretty safe. If we have the gully kind of over here, we shouldn't be anywhere near that electric cable, so that should be fine. So that'll go kind of there, like that. That'll be pretty much perfect. What I need is some downpipe clips. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 110mm ones for soil pipe. Sod's law, I've only got one normal one for guttering downpipe. Oh, I don't believe it. Oh well, rain stops play then. I'm gonna have to go to Wicks. As per usual, I only went to Wicks for downpipe brackets and I came back with half the store. Look at all this. So petunias, 10 for £3. We've got some little nemesia plants, £2 each. Fuchsias, £2 each, and a whole bunch of, what's this, impatiens, orange, 30p each, 10 for £3. Bargain. We need plants. Right, downpipe is in. That's another job off the list. While we're doing kind of fastening to wall jobs, I said to the electrician that I would be the one who takes responsibility for attaching the brackets for the outside lights onto the wall. He'll still connect them up and everything, but you know, it's fresh render, and if anything goes wrong, I would rather that it's on my head than on his, and he's quite happy for me to get that job out the road. So I'm going to tackle that, get those up, and I'm also going to fit the extractor bracket as well. So let me just show you a few little tips for when I'm doing this. First of all, usual rules. Put the screws and plugs that came with it in the bin because they are absolute junk, not even posi drive. I'm just using normal Fisher red plugs for everything. One other thing to bear in mind here, normally I would probably use something like this. This is just an 8 gauge screw. It doesn't need to be particularly beefy, but they do need to be a little bit longer. These will barely get through the render before they get into the blockwork. So I'm going to go for slightly longer screws, and then I'll sink the plugs back into the blockwork because I don't want the render to be taking the load. We want the blockwork to be taking the load. There's always a little bit of a gamble that as you tighten the screws up, it could crack the render, especially with the render being brand new. So this is where things like, let's have a look. Not sure if you can see them a bit in shadow here, but 50mm gold screws. So these are, I think these are 4x50s off the top of my head. But yeah, these are 50mm gold screws, and they will do the job perfectly because it means that we're allowing for kind of 15-20mm of render and then plenty fixing through into the blockwork. Sorry, neighbours are getting some gardening work done at the minute. For a job like this, I'm not going to use my big SDS drill. It's just far too aggressive. I'm going to use just my normal hammer drill. I'll show you why in a second. The SDS was fine for doing the downpipes. Well, even then you still have to be careful. But for the delicate little holes for these light brackets and for the vent cover as well, these are very close to the edge of the hole, the core drill hole through the wall. So you're taking a bit of a gamble using an SDS. It could chip the brick away. And with these light brackets, let me just show you. So the cables are going to come through like that. The screw hole for this bottom left hole is very, very close to where the cable comes out the wall. So you can just see that left-hand screw hole there. It's less than 20 centimeters away from the hole through the wall. So if you use an SDS on a hole like that, because the SDS is much more aggressive and tends to jump about a bit, you do run the risk that the bit of render to the right hand side here is going to chip off, or worse still, the block behind there could chip as well. So I've marked everything up. I know that the markings are all perfectly level. I've got this one to do, that one there, one round the corner, and I've got the vent cover thing as well. So what I like to do, mark everything up and then drill everything and then attach everything. I find that's the quickest way of doing things. I'll put a quick mark on the drill to mark how deep we're going to go. It's nigh on going to be where that bit of tape is. Remember, we're going to go as deep as the screw, not as deep as the plug. So yeah, it's pretty much there. So we'll go kind of that deep. And then one last little job, bit of silicone in the hole just so that we don't get any bugs or anything like that coming through into the cavity. Cable's crazily long, so I'm going to trim that back a little bit. And I think I'm going to do the grommet because The grommet's not going to be easy to get on once this is actually fixed in place. Pop a little bit of silicone on the grommet. It actually makes the cable a little bit easier to push through. Not fully tightening it. Check it with the level again. We've got a good overhang here, so it's not very likely that rain's going to go down into this, but I do like to point the cable downwards so that if it does get wet, rain's going to drop off rather than being directed into the hole. But that's ready for the spark. Back inside the property, our electrician has finished all of the first fix electrics, so that means our next priority is to get the place ready for the plasterers, who are starting very soon. So we need to cover everything that we don't want to be caked in plaster, and of course the living room is now out of action for the next week. More about that in the next episode. We'll leave it there for today. Take care folks, be nice, be kind, look after one another, and we'll see you next time. Tatty bye!